Hello, everyone. Good evening. We're just waiting for one more person and then we'll start very soon, hopefully in like 5 minutes. Thank you so much for joining. Please mute your mic as you join. Please mute your mic as you join. Thank you. Okay, good evening again. Can everybody hear me properly?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you, thank you. You're welcome to this session. Good evening, good afternoon, depending on where you're joining us from. Welcome to the Narratives Africa's Starting Your MBA journey. It's the Wharton's edition, and we've done Harvard, we've done Stanford, GSB, and they were amazing sessions, like super, super amazing. In case you missed it, you want to check our YouTube channel for the recording of these sessions. And I'm hoping for a greater experience today, and I hope you are going to join me on this ride. Just before we move on, I will call my partner Shion Yusuf, who will just tell us a little bit about Narrative Africa and why we are doing this right now. Hi, Shion.
Yeah. Hi, Finn. Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
So, quick one. The narrative is Africa focused, and we are trying to aggregate success stories of people, how they face challenges, and how they created their own experiences and defined what they call success to themselves. So we believe that one way or the other, from having people share this experience is going to inspire us and have us go after what we actually want, face our biggest fears and go after and achieve our largest dreams. So we felt to start with this MBA series, connecting people like ourselves to other Africans that are already schooling in Ivy League. I mean, Harvard, the Stanford, the Wharton, like we're currently doing now. The aim is to let you know that people have done this, you can do this, you could get a better career you want, you could get into Harvard, you could get into Stanford, you could get into Wharton. And after this series, we're going to go into the business series. But right now we are doing the top 5 business schools according to the FT rankings. Thank you for joining in. Hi, Finn.
Okay, thank you so much. So we'll just get right into it. The first thing is I'll always put out a disclaimer. Like we said, this program, this session is organized by the Narrative Africa, not Wharton Business School. So if you have any questions for Wharton, you want to please go to their website and reach out to admissions committee. This is just Abiola and Kparobo sharing their story, sharing their journey, and we hope that we are getting 1 or 2 tips that can help us in our own personal journey as well. Moving on to our guests are here already. So I'll call Abiola and Kparobo. I hope I'm pronouncing the name correctly. Please correct me if it's wrong. Can you just say I and maybe introduce yourself to the community?
Hi, everyone. KP, you want to go first?
No, ladies first.
Okay, thank you. Hi, everyone. Good evening. It's nice to be here. My name is Abiola Olasoji, and I just finished my first year at Wharton, starting second year, I think, on Tuesday. Before Wharton, I was born and raised in Nigeria. So shout out to all my OAU people on the call, Edovage people on the call as well. Born and raised in Nigeria, and I think the last 7 years before Wharton, I worked at Cardinal Stone. So started with the principal investment division, and then was part of the group that spun out to raise a private equity fund. And then I guess like a lot of people, I really hadn't lived in the US before Wharton. Came here, it's been really fun, learned a lot. And over the summer, I did 2 internships. So one with UFF Agric, which is a private equity fund based in Netherlands, and the other with Cargill. So really excited to be here, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you so much, Abiola. Kparobo.
Yeah. Okay. So hi everyone. Kparobo here. So similar to Abiola, I was born and raised in Lagos, Nigeria. I did my undergraduate degree in University of Benin. Prior to Wharton, I worked in a couple of places. I started off my career in PwC within the corporate finance team, after which I moved to Citibank, worked across a couple of teams there, and moved over to Atlas Mar, which is an investment vehicle primarily focused on investing in financial services across sub-Saharan Africa. And over the summer, I interned at Atlas Merchant Capital, a private equity firm in New York. And I'll probably be working with them through December, since school is now a veteran. So happy to be here. Over the past year, obviously, as Abiola said, the experience has been amazing. And yeah, looking forward to answering your questions.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. And Abiola, Dr. R almost saw this poster and was like, "Oh, Abiola, she's like 5 years ahead of you." I'm like, "Oh wow!" I would tell her that you said I. So this is me delivering the message, by the way.
Thank you, Finn.
No problem. Okay, so getting right to it. this year, Wharton was rated the second best business school by Financial Times, and I mean that's why we're having this session. And we have two great guys that have successfully gotten into this school, right? So we want to know how you did it, and we want you to go as personal as possible. As I mean, we all you grew up in Nigeria, like you said, so we want you to make it as relatable as possible. And I hope we have an amazing session. So I've done it in like various sections. So we have the pre-application funding. I mean, a lot of people have questions on on funding, recommendations, the test, and as well as other questions from people, depending on if I've not covered it in my list already. Okay, so I'll just start. The first question I have here is why an MBA? I mean, we have questions around MBA versus MSc. Why did you decide to go for an MBA, and what did you hope to get out of it, basically? So I'll take Abiola first.
Yeah. Thank you, Singh. I think for me, there are two answers to this. In 2012, I applied to join Cardinal Stone. And I mean, the memory is still etched in my mind because it was a life-changing experience for me. I remember that my final interview was with two of the founding partners of Cardinal Stone, Yemi Jembewo and Femi Ogunjimi. And that day, they had me do a financial model on paper. And by the time I was done, I was like, if these guys don't hire me, I'm going to keep applying because I want to work with these people. And then I went and I checked their profile, and it sort of got me asking myself questions. Because I think similar to what we're doing today, I'm seeing somebody that had, similar background, born and raised in Nigeria, did some work and had gone to a global school, done a lot. They worked outside Nigeria for a bit, but then came back to start a business. I was like, so is my OAU BSc all I'm going to ask of myself, right? That was what started it. And then I read this book, Ahead of the Curve, by Phyllis Delves Burton, I think maybe a couple of months after that. And the story just, talking about the MBA experience and just how life-changing it can be, it got me thinking that, so look, what do I really want to do with my life and how do I sort of get there? And I think from that point onward, I always knew I was going to join MBA. It was just a matter of like when. It wasn't like, am I going to do a PhD or am I going to join MSc? I knew that for what I wanted to do with my career, getting an MBA was key because one, getting a global network, learning more, and then seeing, how things are done, best practices in other places, and how I can sort of bring that back as somebody that is interested in SME investing in Nigeria. That was something that I always wanted to do. And so it was always something I would do, just a matter of when.
Okay, great. KP, can I call you KP?
Yeah, that's fine actually.
Okay.
I guess for me, I actually when I finished my undergrad, I actually thought of applying for a master's. I actually did apply for a master's and got a master's in financial engineering again because I was very buzzed about the whole quantitative finance field. But after speaking to a couple of my mentors, they had advised to get a bit of work experience first before going for a master's. And I think within the first year or two of work, and I just realized, oh, look, maybe I should be focusing on the MBA. So obviously, I delved deeper, did a lot of personal research. I spoke to people who I knew had gone through the programs across, who had gone through the MBA program at various times, and not just within the US, also within the UK, to just kind of understand how the MBA really differs from the general master's. And I really now decided, oh look, I want to do the MBA for three primary reasons. Once I determined it was the right time. First was really to expand my network because obviously I'm a strong believer of your network being your network, right? Just being in a class of super intelligent people from across the world, for me, I think that just blew my mind, or the possibility of that just kind of blew my mind. Two was obviously to having been born and raised in Nigeria, to get some international exposure on my own, right? When I decided to do the MBA, I hadn't really lived outside Nigeria. I mean, I had worked outside Nigeria a couple of times, but I hadn't really lived outside Nigeria for an extended period of time. So I just really wanted that exposure. And three was really just to get a 2-year career break and have fun, to be honest, right? And I mean, the past year has been so much fun, and I'm sure Abiola can speak to it. So the third reason was really just to have fun, right?
I think that's the most important one, right? The 2-year
holiday. Exactly. Have a 2-year career break where I'm getting the most amazing people as friends, building relationships that will last a lifetime, and really just seeing the world with these new friends.
Okay, that's great. So I hear global network, I hear best practice, I hear international exposure and fun, basically. Those are your reasons for MBA. Okay, great. My next question is now around, so you both mentioned that you were in Nigeria, you wanted to get international exposure, you wanted to learn, have a global network. So at the point of submitting an application, right, first, how did you decide that this, when you applied, right, was the right time to apply? So how did you get over, oh, my profile is not ready, maybe I should get 1 or 2 more years of experience, I need to do this? Was it that you had a checklist and then you were like, oh, once I do this, this, and this, then I would submit my application? Or was it just spontaneous and you were like, oh, I want to apply next year? Like, how did you plan towards submitting your application?
I guess I can go first. So like I mentioned, I'd always known I wanted to, until I had looked at, I think I'd looked at getting an MBA like maybe 2015, 2016. So it's sort of just trying to get a sense of, what are the requirements and what do I need to do? And I think the way I did mine and what I would advise anybody that wants to get an MBA is just, go to the website of whatever school you want to apply to and talk to people. And with whatever information you get, you can actually build a profile. I mean, that said, we're not saying that, there is a type of person that, goes to, or gets an MBA or something like that. But there are things that you look for. So there are things around your work experience, there are things around, your GMAT, there are things around your recommendation. I think that, and I guess Kparobo can attest to this as well, one of the things that makes an MBA the rich experience that it is the fact that you get into a class with, really, really amazing people that have done a lot, and you can have intellectually stimulating discussions where people bring themselves and their experiences into that class. And so because of that, you can't just be, I am fresh out of school and I want to apply for an MBA. It is not the right fit for you. That said, at Wharton, we do have, a program where you can apply immediately, you graduate university, and then if you get in, you can defer for a couple of years, go get the real work experience. Yeah. Go get experience and then come back. But other than that, you need to basically have a checklist, my work experience, my volunteer experience, my GMAT. Do I have people that know me that can talk to what I've done, right? And can write really great recommendations for me? And do I think I am at a point where I actually just can, use the MBA experience, leverage on that to become like a global leader? Because that's really what this is setting you up for.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. So just from my perspective, right, I think Abiola has pretty much covered everything I would like to say, right? I think the first step for me was pretty much, okay, look, creating a target list of schools or the kind of schools I want to go to, going on their website to say, okay, look, what does the average candidate or what does the average admit for this school look like in terms of the GMAT scores, in terms of the work experience, the background. But as much as you can see what every candidate looks like, it doesn't mean everybody's like that. But as Abiola said, the class is so diverse that almost anybody you can think of with any kind of experience, with any kind of background is in class. But I think that just kind of gives you a starting lineup. So to say, okay, maybe I've worked for a year, or is it time to apply for B school? And I go on the website and I say, okay, on average, people have 4 years of experience. So the question now is, oh, do I think my 1 year experience makes up for another person's 4 years of experience that I'll be able to contribute meaningfully to the class? Because as much as the schools are obviously looking for people to add value to the class, even you trying to apply to the schools, you also want to add value to yourselves. And I think obviously the reason why MBAs prefer to take people with some work experience is because a lot of what happens in class is discussions. You learning from each other, right? And a lot of people tap into their background, their experiences. So we will be talking of, maybe in class, we're discussing on the topic on power, right? And we all know, like in Nigeria, we have an issue with power. And you can bring up, oh yeah, we've had this issue in power in Nigeria. And someone in class is surprised, oh wow, there are countries that actually don't have full power. And or someone from Argentina raises up their hand. I'm like, oh yeah, we had the same issue, but this and this and this is how we solved it, right? And if I'm interested in, for some reason, I'm interested in solving the power situation in Nigeria, I can say, oh, okay, this happened in Argentina. Maybe I can look at what happened in Argentina. So at the end of the day, you have this diverse class. But I think what to start with is actually just looking, what does the average MBA candidate or MBA admit for my target school look like? Then I'll start working from there.
Okay, I think you've even eaten into my next question, which is about the averages, right? So the average GMAT score is about 732, right? And at the first time of preparing for your exam, you have work, you have various things you're doing, and you really want to hit the 700 mark at least, right? Or it's 720. So my question is, how high have you seen? How low have you seen? At what point can I stop trying? So I've written it maybe the first time, the second time, I'm still around the 650, 690 for the GMAT. At what point should I stop trying and maybe focus on other parts of my application? Or is it really, really important to hit like the average or the median test score for Wharton? And does this even affect your funding? I mean, we'll talk about funding much later, but does it have an impact on your funding as well for Wharton?
Okay, so there's a reason why it's an average, right? So obviously it means there are people above and there are a lot of people below.
Yes.
Right. So I don't think anybody needs to stress themselves too much about hitting the average. Obviously, the average for a lot of top schools are really high. You have to end up being in the 98th and 99th percentile of the GMAT. That being said, obviously you aim for the highest score possible, but if you can hit the average, and I think you kind of like provided an answer to the question. If you know, oh, you've tried once, twice, third time, and you know you've actually put in the work and you can't seem to hit the 700 mark, you work on other parts of the application, right? Do I have a strong undergrad degree? If I don't have a strong undergrad degree, can my work experience really explain for not hitting that, oh, I'm strong? Because at the end of the day, what admissions officers say they are looking for is to ensure you can handle the analytical rigor of the program. So if your recommendations, your essays can speak to, oh, you from your work experience, you can handle some analytical rigor, that helps, right? But as much as possible, I would say obviously try to do your best on the exam. Don't say, oh, because I can get in with a 600 or a 620 or I know someone that got in with a 620 or a 630, you wouldn't push hard. If you take it the first time, you don't do it, go back, relax, look for areas you can improve and retake the exam. But as I said, if you've taken it 3-4 times, you think, oh, maybe I don't think I can improve anymore, then it's best to focus on other parts of the application. If you don't hit a 700, it doesn't mean you're not going to get in. You just obviously need to focus on other parts of the application, because at the end of the day, the application process is a holistic process. And there are a lot of people who don't hit the 700 mark, right? In fact, an admission officer once told me that they reject more people that score above the 700 than people that score below. And that's just because the number of people, obviously it's from statistically, because more people, the more people that apply to such schools have over 700. So maybe 80% of the applications already are people that have over 700. So the schools still reject people that have a 790. So the GMAT is not the beginning and the end of the whole B school application, right? Because you see people who are the 790 who may not have got into a Wharton, who may not have got into any other top business school, right? Or a 780. And you see someone with a 630 who tells you, oh, I got admitted to 2 of the top 3 schools or something like that, right? So you just really need to focus on other parts of your application if you can hit the GMAT. Obviously, I think it depends from a funding perspective. It really depends on the kind of funding either the school is offering or you're applying for. There are merit-based funding, and there are funding opportunities, and there are need-based funding opportunities. For merit-based, the GMAT, your undergrad will definitely come into play, right? So someone who scores a 630 versus someone who scores a 760, I would assume, I'm not an admissions officer and I'm not in the scholarship team, but I would assume the person who had like a 760 will be looked more favorably, right? But for need-based, they don't really, once you've gotten admitted, they don't necessarily look at your scores. But putting that aside, I know someone in my class who had a low 600s, who received a merit-based scholarship. So I really don't know how it's all done, but I'll just say, obviously, from my perspective, I would assume that obviously the better your GMAT score, the better your potential funding opportunities for merit-based scholarships.
Okay, thank you so much for that detailed response. And I have a question, GMAT or GRE, which is more advisable? I know they say anyone is fine, really. Is that right? Just to confirm.
Yeah, I mean, I can take this, KP. I think, honestly, either one is fine. I mean, look, I did GMAT. KP, I think you did GMAT too, right? Yeah. I knew a lot of people that did GMAT, but I also knew a lot of people that did GRE. So most schools don't care. I know Wharton doesn't care whether you do GMAT, whether you do GRE. What I would say is it depends on you. Which one are you more comfortable with? We know that the different tests, are maybe one is a little bit harder from the quant side, one is a little bit harder on the verbal side. So just, it's like, choose your choice, right? Like which one works better for you. So, but from an admissions perspective, I would say it doesn't matter. But I think to piggyback a bit on what KP said earlier, at Wharton, there's something that the admissions office, that they always say that, look, we read to admit people, we don't read to deny people. I mean, Wharton really wants, you to come as much as possible. We want everybody to succeed. But I guess at the end of the day, as a candidate, you should just help yourself do that. And it means as much as possible trying to put your best foot forward on everything, on your GMAT, on your recommendation, on what you've done previously work-wise, on your volunteer experience. Yes, I mean, somebody may have like maybe a 500 or maybe 530 and get into an Ivy League school, but you don't know what else they have. They may have some really strong background that would make any admission officer actually overlook, the potential deficiency in their GMAT. But as much as possible for everybody on the call today, I would say if you can, push yourself to get something really high, because that is what is going to make a difference between you and every other person that is applying. Think about it like, where, I mean, Nigeria, it's a big country, right? We have a lot of people that are striving to get into school. And so what would differentiate you from the next person? So think about it, craft your story and try to bring out what, that thing that is unique to you. It is everything. But again, Wharton is not reading your application to reject you. Wharton is reading your application with a mind to let you come.
Okay, thank you so much, Viola. So moving on to like the story, the essays basically, right? We have, I think for this year, the question is, what do you hope to gain professionally from Wharton, as well as how do you plan to make specific meaningful contribution to the Wharton community? I'm not sure if that's the the essay you wrote during your time, but my question is around how do you craft your story? How do you uniquely tell your story as a Nigerian with your Nigerian experiences? How do you approach the essay? How do you think about the story to be able to attract the admissions officer's attention, basically? And you can please tell us your own story if you don't mind.
If you want to go first?
No, you go.
Okay, cool. I think let me start with a question, and in the chat, guys, just feel free to answer as I'm saying it. Like, so my name is Abiola Olasoji, right? We have KP Tobore on the line, and then we have Finu. I'm sure like you guys all have different names, different backgrounds, and different ideas. Do you think there is anybody else that would be like me, the way I am, or you, the way you are, that has your exact same experience, background, perspective, way of looking at things, and approach to life? I mean, yes or no?
Guys, let's respond.
I mean, let's call it like, is it a yes? Is it a no? Is there,
No.
are there people, is there anybody that is like that?
No.
Okay, so I think most
No.
people are saying no, right? I mean, if the answer is no, then I would say you need to reach deep. And to start with, maybe to talk a little bit about my own experience, I remember that when I was doing my business school application, I had this other two friends who are also in school right now. December of 2018, myself and my two friends, we hunkered up, in an apartment, and we were all about getting our GMATs right, writing our essays, getting our recommendations and things like that. I don't remember how many versions of my essays that I have, but I'm pretty sure it's probably close to 20-ish versions of the essay. The person I used to work with before, Shirley Somoa, God bless her, she spent a lot of time just reviewing my essays. And I remember the first one I sent to her, and she was just like, yeah, this is not going to cut it. And, she kept pushing and pushing and pushing till I got the story out. I think why I started with the question on, do you think there's anybody like you, right, is because if there is nobody like you, what the schools want, what I know Wharton wants, is to know who you are, like, the unabridged, genuine you. Who are you? We want to get to know you. And which is why, if you look at that question, I mean, what do you hope to get from the MBA? We want to know about, where do you come from? What have you done? I mean, what has brought you to this point? And why do you want to get an MBA? And then when you get the MBA, what do you hope to get out of it, right? And so it's not scripting the Nigeria has potential and I want to do this and that. Like, everybody can say that, right? That is not your story. What is your story? What makes you different? And what do you have that other people don't have? How do you see the world that other people don't? And how are you going to bring that to Wharton? And I think that sort of also leads to the second question, because I think KP also mentioned it earlier that it is not just about you coming to take, it is also about you giving. The beauty of the MBA program is the fact that you have a diverse set of, really great people coming together, sharing and learning from one another. So you will learn from people, but as much as possible, you also need to be able to give to the community, which is really what that question is asking about. So really, back to where I started from, it is about you. Who are you? Do you really know yourself? I think writing, and I know that this was from my experience, and maybe KP can also speak to it, but from my experience and from talking to other MBAs, when you start writing the business school essay, it actually leads to a bit of or a lot of introspection, because you have to think, like just think and think and think. Who am I? What do I want? I mean, what do I bring? And I mean, how does everything really tie up? And to sort of get it right, it would be great if you had somebody that had either gone through a similar journey to help you piece things together. Because I think oftentimes as Nigerians, we can be very good at doing, but not very good at writing our stories. I know it's something that I sort of struggled with when I started, right? And I think it's something that I still struggle with now, but you get better. But by talking to people, getting their perspective and not being afraid to, put in the work. And like, if I said I had like maybe 20 plus versions of my essays, I'm sure there are people that have more versions. So it's not just going to be, it appears overnight and then you get it and that's it. No, you have to put in a lot of work to actually get that done.
Okay. Ms. KP, you want to add anything to that? Oh.
No, I mean, Abiola has covered everything.
Okay.
I really have nothing to say. But I mean, just reiterating what she said, there's no Nigeria story, right? Everybody is definitely unique. Even though myself and Abiola have similar experiences to an extent, I'm pretty sure if you read our essays, you'll know these are two very different people. I think one generic advice I would have is, okay, once you've written, so if you look at my first draft of my essay and what I submitted, very different. And I think for most people, it will be very different. Because once you work with one or two friends who can help you with editing, with giving you feedback, you end up seeing that your first draft may be totally useless when it comes to your final draft. But one general piece of advice I would say, when you draft your essay, there's a lot of introspection that goes on during the MBA process into, okay, this is who I am, this is what I really want to do, this is where the MBA comes in. If you give it to a friend, or if you give it to, let me not say a friend, give it to someone who doesn't know you and say, okay, read this essay. If you give, or I guess a friend or someone else, a distant person, does this essay sound like me? Does it seem like me? Mm-hmm. Right? So if I write my essay and I give it to maybe a close friend of mine and he reads it and says, oh yes, KP, given what I know about you, this essay is you, it's your unique brand, then I know I'm going the right path, basically, because your essay has to be unique to you. No other person should be able to take that story and literally just write. What is your own brand? Abiola's brand is different from my brand, it's different from every other person's brand in my class.
Okay, thank you so much. Moving on to recommendations, right? What did you look out for in picking your recommender? Was it title? I know the website will always say title and position doesn't really matter, but what did you look out for? And do they have to be like in big companies? Do they have to be like managing partner or your director? Or what did you look out for when you were selecting your recommender? And the second question is around, is it okay to like share your story or your essay with your recommender so that they can like literally align with the kind of story you're telling? Because we have some people that will tell you, oh, your recommender does not have time, so we'll just give you to even write it. So what was your perspective towards that?
Okay, so the first one, when I was looking for recommenders, I was looking for people who can blow my trumpet, right? Who are not shy of saying, look, I work with this guy, or I've interacted with this guy and he's such a great guy. I'm willing to write very good things about him, right? I think it's right to share examples of what if, because at the end of the day, okay, so your recommenders are so busy and they need some.
I think I lost KP. Is it just me?
Yeah, I think we lost KP, but I'm sure like he will join soon. But I guess while we wait for him, I can just continue.
Okay.
Okay. So like KP was saying, yeah, it's great to have somebody that, is willing to, I guess, go to bat for you. That's the way I will put it. And I think from the Nigerian context where, and this is sort of going back to something I said earlier, we're very good at doing, but we're not good at showing or telling our stories. So we're you're really hardworking, great person, you do your work, you don't make noise and things like that. But
Yeah.
business school is not like that. You need people to actually sort of, just talk to what you've done and how you've done things. And so I would say yes, in my experience, what they say on the website is correct. It doesn't matter what the position of the person is. I think what really matters most is, do they know you? Because there's a difference between what somebody that really, really knows you would say about you versus maybe because I'm doing my business school application and I think this person is an MD at a company and it will look good on my recommendation list. So let me ask him to do my recommendation for me, right? So what I would say is, first advice, look for somebody that really, really knows you. Now, it can be different, right? I know that some people may not be able to maybe tell the people they work with that they are applying to school.
Mm-hmm.
And so in which case they have to get people outside of their work to do it for them. There have been cases like that. That doesn't mean your recommendation carries less weight. Their recommendation carries less weight than, for somebody that you work with. But I would still say at the end of the day, it's really, the person that really knows you. In my case, I did 2 rounds of business school application. I did round 1 for some schools, and then I did round 2 for some other schools. But my round 2 applications, the one I did in January, was really the one that I know that I really wanted, right? And so for that, I sent my recommenders, I sent them the recommendation question in August, and application was due in January. So it's like, dude, you have August, September, October, November, December. Like, you can't tell me that you won't do it now, right? I mean, I'm being serious, right? Because sometimes we also take things for granted. You think that because you know people or you're close to them, you can just, send them something like a couple of weeks before. And then, maybe they will still do it for you because they know you and they care about you, but it is really in your best interest to try to get those things out to people as early as possible. Because one, you're telling them that, look, I value your time. I know that you're a very busy person and I'm going to give you as much time as possible to actually get this thing out. So, that is another advice I would give to people. So don't say that the application is due next week and then you're sending it to them like 2 weeks before. It also shows that, you're not very deliberate about what you're doing. And frankly, I would say it shows that you don't really want it enough. Like, if you really want it enough, like, plan it very well, send it out to people and let them, get it out. In my case, I didn't have to write any, sample recommendation for the people that did my recommendation. But for them, I knew that I could trust them and that they believed in me so much. And they wanted this for me as much as I wanted it myself. But that doesn't happen to everyone. So I would say, know what your circumstances are and try to work with what you have. But as much as possible, give your recommenders more time, not less time. And it doesn't matter who they are or what positions they hold. What really matters is that they know you and they can talk about your story and your journey. The people that wrote my recommendations were the people I worked with, had been with them for 7 years. So they could speak to me, like what I am. Like they saw me from, when I was a junior entry-level analyst to when I was a manager before I left. And so like they could speak to my story, my journey, and my development. So find people that are that close to you and get them to write your story.
Okay.
Yeah, I dropped off. I'm pretty sure Abiola must have covered this. But one thing I would just say is I don't think anybody should write. You should write your recommendation yourself. As much as yes, I understand some recommenders may be busy, and obviously Abiola had said give them time. I think a way you can also help your recommenders is giving bullet points of like examples where you did well or did excellent work, right? So if you've worked with someone for 3 years, right? The person is busy. Okay, application is due in January, or if you're applying first round, application is due in September. Give them like a 3-month window. Obviously, you talked to them before, they would accept to do the recommendation. How you can help them is give them bullet points. Remember when I worked on XXX transaction or XXX project, and I was able to achieve this. I did this, and I achieved this. That way, you're already giving the person examples that they can now expatiate on when writing your recommendations for you, right? The person can easily go, and I know a lot of people are lazy and may not be able to will not sit down to write it. But I think with that, we've already helped the person begin to craft what you're trying to do, right? And I can have a sit down, or for me, I had sit down meetings with my recommenders to tell them to say, okay, look, obviously when they had accepted, to say, okay, look, I'm applying to this school. This is what my story is. This is my resume. These are examples of when I'd worked with you that I showed leadership, I showed teamwork. These are key things I would like to highlight, and these are examples of when I worked with you, right? So the person already has the tool sets to write. So even if the person is lazy, it's almost like, oh, okay, I've given him some 3-4 bullet points. Oh, you know what? Let me just expand on those bullet points and just keep in touch. So I wouldn't tell someone in June, for instance, oh, please fill out my recommendation, and the person accepts, and I send the person bullet points, and I just relax. Then like 2 weeks to the deadline, I now message the person. I'm like, you've not submitted the recommendation. No, you just have to keep in touch. Oh, did you get my email? Please let me know if you need to ask me any questions, if you need anything from me. But what I would say, definitely don't write your recommendation yourself. First of all, because anyway, in summary, I don't think anybody should write your recommendation yourself. You can just guide your recommenders by giving them examples. That would be my advice in terms of recommendation.
Okay, perfect. Moving on to funding, right? So the Wharton tuition is about $80,000 per year, and like the total cost of attendance is about $112,000. I mean, converting that in my head with 450 naira per dollar, I can just imagine, right? But I know that there is the Wharton Fellowship Program, and there are also other fellowships that are available to students. So, how much can you get as a Nigerian or as an African, basically, because there is need-based and there's merit-based. So how big can you spread your wings? Have you seen someone that got 100%? Because I've not seen any, like other schools like HBS, for example, that has a 7-up, or Stanford that has a 9th NSC. Do we have anything like that for Wharton? And is there a possibility of getting 100%, or even if it's need-based, like how many percent do people get, like Nigerians, Africans, like how many percent do they get? And please, did you get, if you don't mind sharing what percent?
From my perspective, there's no fixed answer to that. It may differ by year. And by the way, the 7-up you mentioned for is not HBS. It's 7-Up that decided
Yes,
to
yes, yes.
sponsor a student
Yes.
with HBS. But the truth is, it can differ per year. I got some money from Wharton, a scholarship, a small scholarship. I think Abiola did too, and Abiola, you can correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes,
Within the year, they can reach out to you and give you more money. Some guy can just contribute some money and give you more money. I recently got some more money from the school because I applied for something. Some alum had donated some money to the school, and I applied and I got some more money. So there's no fixed answer to that, but I would say it can range. I'm sure it can range from 0 to 100%. So you can get 0%, you can get 100%. Obviously, you don't see a lot of people getting 100%, right? So most people will get between 0 and 100%. I don't think there's any fixed answer to that. But then again, I don't think you should be shy of funding your business school with loans. I think on average, about 70% of any top B school class funded with loans. At least in my class, for instance, about 70% of the class has loans. And I know from a Nigeria perspective, we are shy about loans. And when you think of the amount, you're like, oh wow, taking a loan of $100,000. I've never ever I've not end up to that money in my 4 or 5 years of work. How am I supposed to take a loan? But then again, the value, when I say this, that the value you get out of the MBA, even during your MBA, even before you leave the MBA, you realize that the money is more than worth it. And everyone gets a loan, by the way, once you want to take a loan, or up to the total cost of your attendance. Once you've gotten admitted, you can get a loan up to the total cost of your attendance. So even if you don't really have savings, you can get a loan up to the total cost of your attendance, I believe. And at the end of the day, if you look at the average salaries post B school, speaking with the admissions and financial aid team, and the lady was telling me at the end of the day, most people tend to cover up or fully pay off their loans in about 5 years post school without any intense stress, right? So yeah, so the truth is that I would say, as much as yes, you consider funding opportunities as when you're applying, the main thing is getting in first. Get in first, then you can potentially explore, because apart from the funding that Wharton gives, there are also external funding opportunities, like e.g. there's the TY Danjuma, right? There are external funding opportunities who may give you some small 5K, 10K, 20K here and there that can help augment the cost of the program.
Yeah, I think KP sort of covered most of it. I think the only thing I would want to add is that aside, getting a loan, getting funding from school, when you start recruiting, there are also just opportunities to actually have, the company pay for you. So for example, for a lot of people that do banking, it's very common that, banks give some form of scholarship. It may not be 100% of your cost of attendance, but it would be, substantial. And so that's also another way to defray the cost. But that said, I think overall, if you think about the value that you get from the MBA versus the cost, it's really worth it. And I mean, if I'm being real, I remember December 2019, well, I guess March, when I got my admission, like I went from very excited to like freaking out in 1 week. Like, it was first the euphoria of, oh my God, I got some business school. And then it was like, shit, what am I going to do? Because then I was like, how am I going to get the funding? But really, if you think about it, like KP said, every single person that gets admitted, you will get funding, whether it is, from getting some form of scholarship from the school, which we both did, external scholarship, we both got some money from TY Danjuma, the TY Danjuma scholarship, just, some other funding opportunities at a school, either you're doing some either paid or unpaid, fellowship with the school, that's sort of funding as well, right? So either way, you will get some way to fund your education. And I guess after the first year, between the first and second year, most people do, you have like summer internship. It's also a way to make money. At least by then, you know that you're earning money in USD, not Naira, with our exchange rate that is, wiping everything off. But that said, what I would say is think about this as an investment in your future. And I mean, even though KB said, most people pay it off in 5 years, if you really want to be very, very aggressive, you can actually pay it down in 3 years, depending on you, because really what you would earn post MBA is like a significant base that you can afford to. And then you have the rest of your life to make it up to yourself.
Yeah, you can even pay it down in less, really, because I mean, on most jobs, you get like a sign-on bonus, you get your year one bonus. So true that if you want to quickly pay off your loan in a year or two, I think you can still with the average amount you get basically.
Okay, a quick clarification. We had a question from someone that said he heard that non-international students basically can't access student loans because they are not US citizens. Is that true? And can you clarify that?
No, that's not true. I think everyone that gets into, I think most top business schools can access loan. I'm international, Abiola is international, and I believe we both, speaking for myself, I have a loan from the US.
Yeah, I do too. And I think maybe to clarify, maybe what the person is saying is that if you're an international, you can access some loans, and that, the cost of the loan would be different. And so, for example, if you're a US citizen, there's some student loan from the federal government that are usually, in the lower single digits that people get, right? But if you're an international student, you are not eligible for those kind of loans. But you have loans that, people, companies like Discover, companies like Prodigy, that, their business is, and I think Quorum, that their business is actually providing loans for international students. And so some would tell you that you should get like a US co-signer. Some would tell you that, maybe the school is a co-signer. Like in Wharton's case, Wharton serves as a co-signer for us. So I have a loan with Discover, and Wharton is my co-signer. And so it's not like, you can't get a loan. There are loans available for you, but the cost of a loan will be different from if you're a citizen, because, I guess as long as you're still in school, the risk profile is different. But the good thing is that once you finish and you get a job, you can actually reprice the loan to match what the current market rate is. And that is what a lot of people do.
Okay, thank you so much for that. So very quickly, I would want you to speak about Wharton's reputation as a finance school. So would you say it should top my list if I want to go into finance, investment banking, private equity? And if I don't even want to go into any of this, should I still consider Wharton as a good school to apply to?
I mean, I know that obviously I am biased, but as far as I'm concerned, like, we are the best, like first of the rest. But anyway, jokes aside, Wharton is your any discipline school. Like, we have amazing faculties, across finance, marketing, management, operations, just to say the least. That said, I mean, we do realize that certain schools have reputations for, some things. So for example, you can say Kellogg is the marketing school, Wharton is the finance school, and so on and so forth. We do have a strong finance department, but I mean, we also have really strong faculties across different things. So like for myself, like I have not really been taking a lot of finance classes because I did, private equity before school. I have a CFA. I'm like, I just want to maybe park the finance to the side small. I mean, I've taken some finance courses, but I've gotten really caught up in, marketing. I've taken things on legal aspects of businesses. I've taken a lot of management classes, things around strategy, and then, operations as well. So I would say really, depending on what your specific circumstances are, maybe do research to sort of get a sense of who are the professors, what is the curriculum, what are the course offering. But I would say that while we do have a really great finance program, we're not just into finance, we're, your go-to for marketing, strategy, operations, and, a lot of other things as well. KP, I don't know if you want to add any.
In summary, whatever you want to achieve, Wharton is your go-to school.
Okay.
So yes, obviously in the past it was known as a school of finance, because I think the name earlier on was the Wharton School of Finance. But I think now, as Abiola said, Wharton is very broad, right? We have an excellent marketing department, an excellent management department. But yes, come to Wharton for all your needs.
Okay. So another thing I would like to ask is around the recruitment process, right? So how does Wharton, both the school and the community, help you with getting jobs after post MBA, right? Because a lot of people, the end goal is relocate and then get a really, really great job. So how do you get into big companies that would help you with your process and all of that? How does Wharton help you with that?
KP?
Okay, in several ways, right? So obviously the school has an excellent career department, and they have various career advisors. Depending on what you want to do, there's a career advisor dedicated to that industry. The career advisor would obviously basically work with you to ensure you are ready to recruit, right? Then there are also the professional clubs, which provide you with all the resources you would typically need to be able to recruit at top firms. For instance, there's like an investment banking club, there's a private equity club, there's a marketing club, there's a general management club. So basically, there's a technology club. If I want to work in big tech, Amazon, Google, I joined the technology club. They provide me with the basic resources that I'll need to prepare for my interview. From the school perspective, there are obviously a lot of these companies who come to school, and they post their vacancies on an internal website we have on the school. But obviously, the school first of all gets you ready through. We have various resume review. You have a meeting with your career advisor. So the school tries to mold you to ensure you're even ready to face the companies when they come on campus. Then a lot of these companies come on campus, and the companies are obviously looking to hire you, right? So when they come on campus, the school has already prepared you both, and so you have as much as you have the career advisors, you have the professional club, your classmates, both if you're a first year, both your fellow first years and the second years are also very, very, very good resources. There's something I noticed when I got into Wharton, that people tend to be very collaborative. One of the benefits of having a large class like what we do at Wharton is that whatever you want to do, right, someone somewhere has done it before, right? Whatever company you want to work in, there's someone in your class who has worked there before, right? So if I post, we have a Slack channel. If I post, I'm like, oh, I'm recruiting with X, X, and X. Please, who has worked there before? Someone will say, oh, I've worked there, or I know someone who works there and is willing to make an intro, right? So apart from what the school does, your classmates are also a huge informal resource to you. And probably, if you ask me, probably your most important resource.
Okay, thank you so much for that, KP. We've fast spent on time, so I'll just take one or two more questions. So I had a question on, is there a discrimination against candidates in their early 40s? And another one about, is public sector experience valid to get into Wharton? So I don't know if Abiola can help us with that.
Yeah, sure. I guess let me start with the first question. I don't think, and in my experience, I haven't seen any form of discrimination against, anybody. Um, the class is pretty, I think, diverse from an age perspective. You have maybe people as young as maybe 25, 26, and you have people that are in their, mid to late 30s, right? So really, it depends on you. If you still think the regular MBA program is the best for you, apply. But that said, though, like, if you're pushing 40 or a little bit higher, depending on what your career experience may be, I mean, it might also be advisable to just consider the executive MBA program, just because, those kind of programs are geared towards people that have more career experience and are at, a certain stage in their lives. But that said, there is really no difference between whether you're 25 or you're 30. I mean, the bulk of the class tend to be, I think, between either 27 and 30. But that said, there are people that are over that mark. And, we're all, one big happy class. You learn from people, you go out with people, you have fun. But like KP said, really the most important resource that you do have are the people that you're in the class, because in the next couple of years you have people in different positions, and those are your network. Those are the people that you can always reach out to help you with them.
Okay, so my final question for this night would be, considering our current realities with COVID and the pandemic, do you think an online, schools are starting to do their MBAs online. Do you think an MBA is worth it at this time? I mean, considering that you're doing it online, the global network, you really, really want to get into the international exposure, would you advise anybody to consider an MBA right now?
I think, as with everything, there is no right or wrong answer. I think that the right answer really depends on your circumstances. And yeah, I mean, while it's been really tough, just given the fact that everybody is, Zoom university for the most part, I think that for me, if I was starting out and I wanted to get an MBA, I think that this is actually a good time to apply, just because you're in the middle of a pandemic. Apply. By the time you finish your 2 years, God willing, hopefully, Corona doesn't become really, really crazy. You will have significant economic recovery, which means that you're actually coming out at the time when things are on the upward movement, and what happens with that. It means, better jobs, better opportunities. I think for the MBA experience itself, while several aspects of what we do as a school has been affected, the school has done a really good job to ensure that they basically create the experience to ensure that at least we can still get significant value. So either with smaller class sizes, putting people in touch with each other in whatever cities they are, so that at least you can still continue to meet with people and have those interactions. Those are still happening. So like, I've been in Philly all summer. My classmates are here. And so even though we all have to, socially distance, people are still doing business. People are still working on their startups. People are still recruiting. You're still meeting people. It's taking a different format, but the core value of the MBA has not changed. And as for getting you in front of, the right employers and recruiters, that is still going on. And so the Wharton Career Management Office already has, a list of companies that are doing virtual information session recruiting and things like that. So everything is going on. It is just taking a different format. And I think there was another question in the a comment in the chat about public sector experience. all experiences are valid. We have people that, worked in the public sector. We have people that were, teachers before. We have people that were lawyers. We had people that were, maybe in the medical field. I think we have like a couple of surgeons in the class. We have pro athletes. I mean, obviously you have, a lot of the class that have done either banking, consulting, private equity, but we have what we call the traditional finance people, and then we have non-traditional people who maybe hadn't done finance before. And yes, public sector is a thing. Like there are people that that's what they did before, and we even have some courses and majors that are actually just dedicated to either public finance or policy making or things like that. And so yes, that experience is also valid. But overall, I don't think that, I mean, while the pandemic has been challenging, that has not diminished the value of the MBA. It's just that you have to ask yourself at the end of the day, what are my circumstances and do I really think this is the right thing for me? And if you think it is, now is actually a good time to be going to school, because hopefully you would graduate at the other side of the pandemic when the global economic recovery is in full swing.
Hey, thank you so much. It's been an amazing session. I don't know if KP has any last words for us.
No, not really. I mean, let's just say I look forward to seeing more Nigerians at Wharton. Obviously, myself and Abiola and a group of other people, other Africans in the school have been really just trying to push to ensure we get more of us in through the door. So obviously in the future, we can obviously really expand even the network in Africa. So obviously we look forward to seeing more Africans within the Wharton community. But yeah.
Okay,
I mean,
thank you.
sorry. Sorry.
And sorry, Abiola. I need to drop off now. I'm super late for another meeting already. But thank you so much, guys. I hope it's been helpful to those of you that have attended. And yeah, hopefully look forward to some of you joining the Wharton community.
Okay, thank you so much, KP. Really, really appreciate it. Apologies for going over time. Apologies. Thank you so much. So guys, this is the deadlines for 2021 application. We have round 1, round 2, round 3. I'm seeing some other questions that you can easily get your answers on their website. How much does a Wharton MBA cost? Check their website. What do you need? Please check their website. Guys, let's research. If you're really, really serious about this, we're willing to put in the work. Research. Their website has a lot of information. So I would hand over to Blessing right now to just round up the session.
Yeah, sorry, Finn, before you guys run over, I think there's just a couple of things I wanted to say. I think, first of all, I mean, once again, thank you for having us. But I think one thing I wanted to stress is that of all the, and I think easily of all the MBA schools in the US, Wharton actually has the largest African network. Like, no joking, like you have like a very strong, vibrant African community. And I think for me, that was one of the things that, made me choose Wharton. It's a top business school, but he also does not joke. I mean, Wharton does not joke about Africa. It's like really super interested in Africa, really committed to his development. This year, and KP is also on the team as well. This year, I'm one of the co-presidents of the Wharton Africa Group Partners. And what we basically do is we actually work, I guess, as consultants with companies, institutions and organizations doing business in Africa. And so over the last 1 year, I've done projects in East Africa. We had, a couple of projects in Nigeria, a couple of projects in South Africa and things like that. And so like you also have that. I mean, because I do realize that it is a big decision. One part of it is just, deciding, coming, getting in. But you also, you feel homesick. For me, when I feel homesick, I drink Gary. Like, no kidding. I'm serious. And for KP, like for anybody that is coming from Nigeria right now, I've been begging people for gala. That's how homesick I am. And so it really helps to have a community of people. Like last year, we did Nigerian Thanksgiving. So we don't joke with semo and poundo yam and jollof rices. In fact, we have jollof wars. And nobody has still decided where from Africa we have the best jollof. But I guess I'm saying all this to let you realize that we're all about, the school, we're about work, we're about friendship, we're about everything. But lastly, we're also about the community, because this is it can be really stressful. And so you need people, you need to find your tribe. And that's one of the things that Wharton has that, um, a lot of other schools do not have. So I would say, look, think about it, figure out what works for you. But I mean, I know I'm biased, but we're the best.
I'm sold, actually. I am. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Blessing, are you ready for us?
Okay, hi, good evening, everyone. Thanks, Abisola, for this very incisive session. Incidentally, you taught me at Edubridge, so I'm super excited, seeing my teacher, doing what she has been doing in the past. I would say really thank you very much for finding our time to be here. Kparobo went to my school, so we've been in touch for a while now. Even though he's not here, thanks as well for coming to share your experience with us. And to everyone that's find time to attend this session. To Finn and Yusuf, thank you very much for the hard work. And to the Narrative African team. To everyone that find time to be here, thank you very much once again. You've heard from the horse's mouth, and you can see that your aspiration is possible. You too can be part of the class of whatsoever you want to be a part of. So just take that next step, which is if it's to write that GMAT, do that. If it's to write that essay, I would say take that next step to give life to your aspiration. As a closing note, don't forget to follow us on our social media platform, on Instagram, on LinkedIn, on YouTube, and on Twitter, where we'll be excited to engage you on this platform. Thank you very much, and good night to everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.